Hi class. Today we're going to continue on with our lessons on communication. As you might note, the title of this slideshow is called Current Issues in Leadership, and I want to identify that communication is in fact one of those issues where we oftentimes have dynamic leaders who have great vision and great passion, yet they're ineffective at communicating that passion and that vision to their people, to their employees or to their followers or whomever they may be. So that's why it's a current issue in leadership. So today we're going to talk first about what this communication is. We're going to watch a TED Talk by someone named Amy Cuddy. We're also going to talk about some active listening, and then we're going to work on some follow-up homework. And so the order of these things is going to be a little bit chopped up, depending on if you get to the video in the middle of the slideshow or after. Either or is fine. So let's just walk through it. So what is this communication thing that we're talking about? Communication is the process of sending and receiving symbols with meanings attached. And so I want to highlight two things. One is sending. Okay, so if you are communicating to someone, you are sending them a message. Okay, you're sending them some sort of symbol with meaning attached as it's defined. But also communication is also the receiving of said message, right? So you could send something as a communicator, and you may think that as a communicator that's your job, right? But also within communication is the act of receiving messages, right? So if you want to say that you are an effective communicator, it doesn't only mean about your ability to talk or your ability to relay messages. It also talks to your ability to receive messages. Okay, and so communication is a two-way street where the communicator could also be the one receiving said message. Okay. And so all facets of communication have a few different individuals or people or ways of thinking, right? So who is sending the message? What is the message? The way is the channel, and we'll talk about channels more later. To whom being the receiver, and the result is what happens. And so all these things need to exist for communication to happen, and all of them will exist in varying effectiveness, right? So who is someone who sends the message? What is the message that is being sent? The way is the channel. Like, how is that message being sent? Is it being a phone conversation? Is it a text message? Is it a post on Facebook or Instagram or wherever? That's the channel. To whom? Who is receiving the message? And then what happens? What's the interpretation of that message? So all these things take place, or all these things exist when communication is happening, good or bad, right? The result, the interpretation, might be the opposite of what the sender wanted to happen, but that's what was received and that's what was talked about. So that's still part of the message, okay? And you have to evaluate, is that really what you wanted to say? Is that really what you wanted that individual to receive? So these are all the components of communication, right? And so let's examine, why are we communicating, right? We're trying to get someone to understand something that we want them to understand, or we want someone to be persuaded of one of our points of view, or to follow us, or to vote for us, or whatever it may be. And so communication has a lot to do with persuasion, which is the ability to present a message in a manner that causes the other person to support it, right? So I'm not saying all communication is persuasion, but oftentimes communication does end up being persuasion, right? Sometimes you just want to communicate an idea, right? That you're not trying to persuade someone in one way, but persuasion is a big part of communication. And in leadership, often we were trying to influence, right? In leadership, we're trying to lead, right? So in that state, we want to be persuasive. We want to be able to persuade someone one direction or another direction. And so in persuasion, we want to find out, what's going to impact our ability to persuade or influence others. And when we watched the Julian Treasure video or the Barack Obama video, we saw different methodologies that help our communication and help our ability to persuade or to communicate ideas. And so what is going to impact that communication? So one, credibility. Integrity types of things, right? Does someone trust you? Does someone respect you? Do you have integrity? That's going to impact the words that you are speaking. That's going to impact how someone views what you may have to say, right? The more credible you are, the more trustworthy your message may be, okay? Two, noise, okay? Anything that interferes with the communication process, right? This could be something as simple as a commercial, or as simple as music in the background. Or if you look at a website, if you're surfing the web and you have pop-up banners and lots of different pop-ups, or on any website where there's just a kind of a flashing symbol, that's all noise, right? Things that are going to interfere with what you are supposed to hear. So even right now, if you may be listening to this this video or watching this video, you might have your phone beside you, and your phone might ping, and someone might be messaging you, and so unless you pause the video and you look at that message, that's noise. That's interfering with the communication that's trying to be given to you, or interfering with what I'm trying to say. So any of those kinds of things are noise. If you study in your work, in your bedroom or wherever, and your TV's on, your computer's there, your phone is there, that's all noise that's impacting what kind of communication that you might get. Okay? 3, the channel. Okay? How is that communication happening? The medium through which the sender conveys a message to the receiver. Right? A phone conversation is a very different channel than a text message. Okay, an emoji or an emoticon is a very different method than someone writing a letter, right? So the channel is going to change how the message is received. It also changes the effectiveness of the message, the speed of the message, and so it's not always that a text message is worse than a phone call, or an emoji is worse than a text message, but they serve different purposes. Both have pros and both have cons. And so it's important to understand what kind of message you're trying to send and what is the best channel for your receiver to receive that message in its entirety, or receive that message how you want it communicated. Nonverbals. I'm sure you've all heard of nonverbals before, how they talk about so much of your communication is actually not through your words, right? How you're standing, how you're gesturing, all these kinds of things communicate a lot of what you want to be heard, right? And so I could communicate two very different things with what I'm saying with how my body language is. And so it's very important to match your body language with the actual words that are coming out of your mouth, okay? Which is also why oftentimes emails or text messages get misinterpreted, because people don't understand tone, they don't understand how people are actually feeling or thinking, or want the message to be received, because they chose the wrong channel, because it should have been a face-to-face conversation, or at least should have been over the phone. And so those nonverbal things are part of that communication that can't be relayed over text message. 5th is mixed messages. When you have verbals and nonverbal, sometimes those things are mixed up. Sometimes you can't tell, is that person joking because what they say sounds maybe like it's going to be a joke, but their body language is very, very serious, so you don't think, is it actually a joke? We're not sure. And so again, that's why it's very important to make sure that your verbals and nonverbals, your actions and what you say and what you type or whatever it is, they're consistent. Otherwise, the individual who's receiving the message may not get what you're trying to say. And lastly is status/filtering. So we're going to cover this when we talk about active listening a little bit more, but a receiver has the responsibility to receive the message, okay, and really try to understand what that individual is trying to tell them, right? But it's very, very often where, say you're having a conversation with someone, or even an argument, or trying to have a debate, and so you hear something someone is saying, yet you're filtering through what the words were, and trying to even filter through what they're trying to say to mold it to benefit your argument, or change it and distort it to make it sound better for you so you can rebut them in a more effective way, right? And so if that's what your goals are, if that's your status and filtering what they're saying to you, you're not actually receiving the message from them as it was intended, right? And so then maybe you might win the argument, but effectively, what was the goal of the conversation in the first place? Was the goal of the conversation to win the argument, or was the goal of the conversation to actually communicate, right? And so you need to reevaluate what your goals are when you come into conversations. Reevaluate what you're trying to accomplish, right? It can't be just to win conversations, because then you don't learn. You don't get different perspectives. And so lots of those flaws and problems exist when we're trying to debate or engage in conversations with people. So now we're going to pause and we're going to look at a video, and it says, your body language shapes Who You Are by Amy Cuddy. So this video talks about how you communicate to yourself. Also, it impacts how you communicate to other people or to the outward audience. But we've been talking about sending and receiving messages and actually doing communication to other people and receiving from other people a little bit. And so the Barack Obama, the Julian Treasure video talk about how do you become a better communicator to the outward audience. Okay, and so that's one aspect of communication. This video is an aspect of communication that talks about how are you going to communicate with yourself. Okay, and so we're going to stop there, pause this video, and check out the Amy Cuddy video also posted. And so watch that, and then we'll have a conversation about it after. So you've watched the Amy Cuddy video. We've talked about communicating to your audience, and now we've talked about communicating to yourself. And so the last aspect of this will be communicating by receiving. And so that is our active listening portion. So what is active listening? Active listening is helping the source of a message say what he or she really means, right? You want to hear what they're trying to communicate. Otherwise, why are you talking with them or why are you communicating with them unless you're actively wanting to know what they have to say? If you don't want that, then what's the whole point, right? So there are 5 rules of active listening. 1, listen for message content. Like, what exactly is the content? Like, what are the pieces of that information? 2, listen for feelings. How does the source feel about the content? And so the content matters, of course, but understanding what this person feels about that content also matters, because the tone of what they're trying to say in the details of the content is going to impact why they're trying to say it. Okay? 3, respond to those feelings. Okay? Let the source of the message know that you understand the feelings behind that content. Okay? Because that lets them know that you've both heard the actual technical content, but have also heard how they feel about that content. Right? Because that matters. 4, note all their cues. Verbal, non-verbal, that will help you understand their feelings. That'll help you understand what they feel about the content and what points of content are emphasized or are de-emphasized. Okay? And lastly is to paraphrase and restate. You want to be able to receive this content and you want to be able to relay it back to them. Right? Again, what does this do? That helps them know that you are understanding what they're saying and you've received their message to the fullest of what they're trying to communicate, right? No one wants to kind of be left in limbo, right? Thinking, oh, I hope they understand what I'm saying, versus, oh, for sure they know what I'm saying, right? That helps progress the conversation forward, right? So you want to be able to paraphrase and restate what they've said to you back to them to ensure that the message has been received. Again, you want to know what they're trying to say. That's the whole point of the conversation, right? And so if you want to know what they're trying to say or trying to communicate to you, then paraphrasing and restating is very important, because that is helping you clarify for yourself, all right, am I really getting what they're trying to say? It helps the sender to know that you've gotten it. And to end off today's lesson, we're going to look at some examples of active listening. And so these links are also posted. There's 3 of them. They're 3 clips from a popular TV show called Everyone Loves Raymond, or Everybody Loves Raymond. And so watch them. They're just kind of humorous examples of what active listening is and what it isn't. Okay? And so to conclude this lesson, there's an active listening worksheet that I want you to prepare and work through. It is very repetitive, I admit. I understand that. But I just want you to go through the motions and actions to kind of practice what this may be. And it will feel repetitive and kind of tedious to you, but we want to get in practice of at least trying these things out so you know what it feels like. And 2, I want you to do a power pose. The power pose from Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. I want you to pick an evaluative situation, do a power pose, and kind of talk about how it made you feel. No answer is wrong, so just be honest with what made you feel or what you think, and then respond on Edsby on how you utilize that pose and if you felt a difference. Okay, so that's our lesson on communication. Thank you.